they were saying is that, look, you carry on and you are destroying the planet, but what about you? You're taking note of the coronavirus. Now, the coronavirus is destroying some people and some people are dying. But the whole planet is dying and you're doing nothing about the planet dying, nor are you doing anything about the CO2, nor you're doing anything about renewable energy, and you're continuing like this. So what is this? So every day they were protesting. But what was surprising was that none of the newspapers, while they gave the media gave some attention to that, but they didn't say pro or con of this particular movement, which I think is the most important thing as far as getting the governments to take some action. If there is a mass movement somewhere, then the government is obliged to take action for whatever, whether it's climate change or whether it is renewable energy or whether it is any one of the other plastics, single plastics or whatever. So this was quite an eye-opener to get the UK government to move.
Sure. Rambo, it's 3 o'clock now. What time do you want to start?
We can start now.
Oh, it's 3 o'clock.
So
we go back onto the other one?
No, you be there only. Hello, everyone. Very warm welcome. Of course, it's a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We have a lot of people from all over the world. I just saw there are around 30 people from Philippines, Far East. Similarly, almost from every continent, we have the people joining this international conference on sustainability education, the third version of it, third edition. We had a grand opening an hour back with Mr. Pradeep Burman, chairman of Mobius Foundation. And now we are into the main technical session. And it's my duty to extend to you a very warm welcome to all the distinguished delegates, learned speakers, panelists, session coordinators, exhibitors, poster and paper presenters, and of course, each one of you who have joined us today virtually to this third edition of Icsc. I especially welcome our chief guest today, Shri Atul Bagai, Director, UNEP India Office. In fact, we had requested Honorable Minister, but he had to go out of Delhi. So he had just sent in his message. He has sent all the best to his best wishes for the success of deliberations of the conference. And he is keen to hear about the outcome of today's deliberations. We also welcome Mr. Terry Spare. He has, of course, we will be hearing him just now, and also in one of the plenaries tomorrow. Mr. Karthike Sarabhai, with whom I had privilege of working for more than two decades at Center of Environment Education. We were just talking. He is the moving force, I would say, behind this whole Icsc concept. He is also the chairperson of its technical advisory committee. Whatever you see today, all those ideas is his, as well as Mr. Pradeep Burman, another figure who opened up the conference at 2 o'clock. He is away from Delhi. He was in London and now in Dubai on his way to Delhi. But his keen interest and enthusiasm has made all of us so vigorous and so enthusiastic to take forward this Icsc, the whole concept. So let me put this into context. Actually, 2019 we thought to have a modest conference to begin with, but it ended up during the preparation that there were some 5 UN agencies, close to a dozen international agencies, all those, and of course, around 24, means I was just counting total 36 partners, national agencies, and all the names, all the stalwarts in the field of sustainability, environment, climate change, biodiversity, you name, from India, from abroad. We had a galaxy, 40 exhibits, 70 papers, those different sessions, many poster presentations, plenaries. So it was really a great conference, I would say. We are coming out, its proceedings, the Cambridge Scholar it's in final phases, because of they want quality and all those issues are there. Otherwise, we wanted to release it this time. But all the publications are in the information center of this, on the portal of this conference. So this is really, 2019 was a great beginning. 2020, because of COVID, we did it virtually in the form of Icsc forum, 2 forums. One was on the World Environment Day with the Principals Conclave, and on the biodiversity conservation, 2 issues were there. And the second forum was on World Population Day, on population sustainability. Then we had Icsc 2020. First day was devoted to National Education Policy of India, which was launched in July last year. And second day we devoted to the Youth for Earth, that campaign we launched in association with Climate Reality Project and Earth Day Network. This year we thought we will have the Icsc third, maybe in a blended manner, in a mixed way, like virtual as well as the real conference, but we thought to use the technology. So this is what you can see, the state of the art technology, and we are into it. And we thought that this year is the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. So we thought ecosystem restoration is should be one of the themes. And we have UNEP launched this whole decade, and we have UNEP head Shri Atul Bagai with us. So we will be hearing him just now. And the other second day is on the climate literacy. In fact, you all know that we are going to, world community is going to meet in Glasgow from October 31st to November 11, and Climate Change Summit COP26, and which is called as Make or Break for the Planet. Of course, before that, we had ICC report, which has been termed as Code Red for Humanity. So those all contexts are there. That's why we thought that we should have this conference on these 2 issues, focused on these 2 issues, but we have 11 parallel sessions, as you can see in the program schedule. And they are, of course, keeping in mind these 2 issues, they are deliberating on various aspects, ranging from school education to ecotourism, to circular economy, to population, many issues in 11 sessions, and plethora of themes as well as experts. Another occasion I think I would like just to mention here was the World Conference on ESD, where ESD for 2030 was launched in the month of May. And the theme was Learn for Our Planet. That was hashtag very common on the social media. And UNESCO, which did a survey before that, it found that curricula all over the world, they did a curriculum analysis and found that only 50 countries they have around some kind of mention of sustainability or climate in their curricula, and 19% speak about biodiversity, and less than, of course, sustainability mention is very less. So they have launched this, one of the recommendations during the launch of the ESD 2030 is that all the education system must include sustainability education as a core component at all levels by 2025. So that is one that we should keep in mind. And in fact, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, she said that we need sustainability education not to be for the privileged one, but accessible to all the people. And that is what the success of ESD or sustainability education will be. And this will bring closer to the achievement of all the SDGs. So that was a great statement by Angela Merkel. And again, of course, there was a statement that fight against climate begins with education, with the schools. And that is why we thought that this year's sustainability education, we must dedicate it as a hope for the future, this 2021 Icsc. With that brief introduction, of course, there are so many things to say, and I think you will experience. This is a very different kind of conference. You can experience all those while roaming through our portal. But I would straightway go to our chief guest, Mr. Atul Bagai, Country Head, United Nations Environment Program, to open this technical session of the conference. Mr. Bagai, of course, he is leading the United Nations Environment Program in India. And in fact, when he came to India, heading the United Nations Environment Program in 2016, he has decisively led from the front to fulfill the mandate of the UNEP across the country on the climate change, chemicals, waste and air quality, environmental governance, resource efficiency, environment under review, many more. In fact, I had the privilege to work. We did together a project on the transboundary conservation of biodiversity, and it was interesting. In fact, we had developed that project and hope that in days to come, it might take some shape. But before that, he was in Uttar Pradesh, where we had worked closely. He is from a career diplomat, I would say, in that way, because he is part of the IAS fraternity. And he has worked in the Ministry of Environment Forest as director ozone, and before joining UNEP in 2000. So we are really privileged to welcome Mr. Atul Bagai. And over to you, Mr. Bagai.
Thank you, Rambutji. And I would first like to thank the Mobius Foundation for inviting me to deliver the keynote address for this year's workshop with the theme of education for ecosystem restoration. Before I start on the subject, I would firstly like to thank Barman Saab for the forward-looking and visionary initiative that he has taken to not only set up this foundation, but also make it such a huge initiative over the last few years. I remember, as Rambutji was saying, when I joined in 2017, Rambutji had come and visited me in my office as an ex-UN colleague and was talking about starting this annual event, and he was seeking UNEP support. And as he said, we had worked before when I was in Uttar Pradesh, and I had no hesitation to lend support from UNEP on this. And I'm very happy to see that in the last 3 years, we've been associated. This initiative has become so visionary, so huge, and addressing some of the key issues which are grappling the country and the world. And one of the reasons why we chose to support also was the other speaker today, Karthike Sarabhai, with whom I've been working for the last more than 2 decades. And Karthike, I still remember that amazing decade of environment education event that you had organized in Ahmedabad, I think about 10, 12 years back.
That's right.
where you had invited me to be part of one of the panels with some other key people. And I'm so glad to be again associated with Karthike Bhai on this environment education issue, because he in India has been really spearheading this work over the last almost 3 decades. And it's his efforts that this issue has become the center issue in environmental governance and environmental mitigation. I'm also happy to be sharing the dais with Terry, whom the whole world knows, and I am feeling so proud and honored to be sharing the dais with him. Rambuji mentioned about the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, and this was launched on 5th June 2021, and so the next 10 years, the whole focus would be at scaling up ecosystem restoration efforts and recognizing that there has never been a more urgent need to revive the damaged ecosystems than now. And I say this because of the scientific evidence that has come over the last few decades, that the present pandemics that the whole world is facing, one of the large reasons is also the ecosystem losses or the ecosystem devastation that we all have done over the last almost 3 to 4 decades. And I think this was very aptly highlighted by our Secretary General in one of his addresses to the Columbia University recently, that there is enough scientific evidence to indicate that the extreme pressures that we have put on the planet has led to monumental repercussions of what he called the triple planetary crisis, that is of climate change, of biodiversity loss and pollution that we are witnessing today. He also said that it is almost like we are waging a war against nature and that we need to declare peace, a ceasefire and a peace with nature. Otherwise, the fury of nature is something that we will not be able to withstand and survive. There have been many assessments, and I won't go into these reports. The 6th assessment report of the IPCC, which came out recently, the IPBES 2019 Global Assessment Report, then the State of the World's Tree Report, which estimated that 30% of the world's tree species face extinction. But the underlying factor is that such assessment shows that the health of ecosystems on which we and all other life form depends is deteriorating more rapidly than ever, affecting the very foundations of our economies, of our livelihood, of our food security, of health and quality of life worldwide, and not only in just a few countries. So I think we should understand, each and every one should understand that ecosystems forms the fabric that continues to support all life on Earth. This is a very simple message, but very difficult to understand and very difficult to convey to the people on this Earth, on this planet. And they should realize that the healthier they are, the healthier the planet and its people would be. And I think this is the key message that not only this conference, but the whole narrative, the whole work on environmental education needs to focus on the next 10 years. There are many solutions that are being proposed. There are many alternatives that are being proposed. There are major conventions that are going to be negotiated during the next 6 to 8 months. The Rio Conventions, the CBD, the UN COP coming in Glasgow. And I think one of the underlying themes of all these negotiations that are going on are that maintaining and restoring ecological integrity is the first goal of not only the post-2020 framework on biodiversity, but even the UNFCCC will need to look at their 5 priority areas where they need to drive action. From the global, I would like to now talk a little bit about where does India stand in all this? What is India's view? What is India's stand on this? And then I would speak a little bit on why is environmental education so important for all of us? Why are we organizing a conference like this today? And here I would specifically mention that India holding the presidency of two COPs, the United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification and also the Convention on Migratory Species. And this is a huge responsibility that India is holding simultaneously right now till the next year. And certainly that is also because it is emerging as a leader in restoration with the commitments it has propounded. It joined the Bonn Challenge in 2015 with a pledge to restore 21 million hectares. This was raised to a target of 26 million hectares by 2030 during the UNCCD COP in September 2019. Similarly, some major decisions were taken in the Convention on Migratory Species, and recently two big missions on dolphin and lions, Asiatic lion, have been launched. So I think the government is taking the right steps and making the right noises. But I think the government needs to do also a lot more on how this will be achieved. And that's where I think, given the theme of this year's Icsc, that is Education for Ecosystems Restoration, I would like to draw attention to the strategy for the decade on ecosystem restoration, where two of the barriers to achieving this large-scale restoration that the government of India and the civil society in India are wanting to achieve in the coming years by 2030, which is the decade of action, I think they are directly related to education, two of the barriers. And I would like to highlight these two barriers because that should set the tone for how to mitigate or how to address these barriers. One of the barriers, certainly, as all of you know, is limited awareness across societies of the considerable negative effects of ecosystem degradation. And I think it also gets linked to lack of awareness on the nexus between environment and health. And this nexus needs to be understood by everyone, that unhealthy ecosystem would lead to unhealthy lives for all human beings. And the profound societal benefits that accrue with restoration will only come if we are able to spread this awareness across societies on this nexus between environment and health. The second barrier, I feel, and I have so many experts sitting here who would know better, is the limited technical knowledge and capacity of national governments, local civil society organizations, and private companies in designing and implementing large-scale ecosystem restoration initiatives. And I think that's where, if India wants to achieve a 26 million hectare land restoration target in the next 8 to 9 years, I think these two barriers need to be addressed and catch the bull by its horn squarely before these benefits can start accruing to the society. So, of course, along with these enabling policies, there is a need to increase both public and private finance. Needless to say that these are very important elements. But I think environment education, raising the educational standards on environmental issues, is certainly something that is one of the most important parts of this narrative that we are talking about in this conference today. I would like to now conclude that ecosystem restoration, which is the backbone of this decade that has been launched, needs both transformative action and mobilization of community at large. They both need to go hand in hand. And I personally feel mobilization of community at large is the most important element and the critical element in this fight which we are taking forward in restoring our nature in the coming years. It certainly needs to be supported with the transformation in outlook, in behavior, in policies, in public-private partnerships. But education is a critical component of successfully working towards any of these commitments. UNEP has been ramping up our efforts in sensitizing and motivating people of the benefits of restoration. We are launching also certain elements at a digital level during this decade. We have a very successful Tide Turners Challenge on plastics for school children and universities, where we are working very closely with Karthike and his organization and WWF. And those kind of initiatives show us how important environmental education is. And my last comment is that, and I conclude that success of the decade would depend on the idea of restoration entering into public discourse. That's very vital. It should be mainstreamed in government policies and driving the individual behavior change. And I wish and I hope that the Icsc, which has taken on the theme of education for ecosystem restoration this year, would play a very large and important role in the coming years in this particular effort that is going to be made. And today, this two-day conference, we see that the foundations can be laid in scaling up restoration efforts through the decade. And UNEP would be very happy to be associated with the Mobius Foundation, with CEE, and with all other partners who are here to see that all collectively we can take these efforts forward for making the decade a useful decade for preserving the nature and for preventing more harm to the human beings that we have inflicted on ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Atul Bagai. I think you are a true leader. You underline the importance of education for ecosystem restoration, particularly, in fact, when world is at war with nature. And so it is so important to make peace with nature. I think you emphasized on that. Further, you mentioned about one of the barriers is about the, of course, nexus between the health of ecosystems and the human health is so intricately linked. All this is proved by the COVID, which is of zoonotic origin. The other one is the limited knowledge of all the sectors, all the stakeholders, not only the government, but the lack of awareness about ecosystems that transcends across the stakeholders and sectors. So that is where I think the role of educators and particularly sustainability educators comes there. So thank you so much. With that, we move to the next speaker, the keynote address by Mr. Terry Spare, founder and director, Earth Overshoot. He is a Philadelphia-based ecologist, environmental activist, and documentary filmmaker. He left the corporate world to research, write, and produce 8 Billion Angels, a documentary that exposes overpopulation as the upstream cause of all environmental emergencies. Terry founded and directs Earth Overshoot, a nonprofit designed to promote public and private action to make ecological limits central to all decision-making. He lectures on issues of sustainability to students, investor groups, and civic organizations, and regularly writes opinion pieces for a variety of environmental publications. His latest film, 8 Billion Angels, was screened twice during the 2021 One Earth Film Festival. I would like to invite Mr. Terry Spare to deliver his keynote address.
Good afternoon, and thank you to you, Dr. Rambuji, and to the Mobius Foundation for inviting me to take part in this vitally important event that truly embodies the Foundation's mission of encouraging, educating, and adopting practices which preserve the ecosystem. You know, as the executive director of the nonprofit Earth Overshoot, my role is to lead our organization to put sustainability at the center of all personal and public decision-making to achieve a world with both human well-being and flourishing biodiversity. Our nonprofit, Earth Overshoot, was inspired by the experience we had filming the documentary 8 Billion Angels. We set out to make that film that tells the truth about the conflict between the size of our global population and the sustainability of our planet. And Although we filmed all over the world, the heart and soul of the documentary truly lies in India. That is where, with the help of Dr. Rabia Matai, a senior vice president of the Global Program Policy and Planning for the Catholic Medical Mission Board, she helped us. We met people like Dr. Suraj Pachari, a community health physician and researcher who has spent decades working to improve family planning and reproductive health in some of India's most vulnerable and marginalized communities. We also sat down with Lok Sabha MP Shashi Tharoor, who humanized the intractable social and environmental challenges facing India, as well as offering inspiration based on the progress made in his home state of Kerala, where, as many of you know, girls' education, women's empowerment, and declining fertility rates have put the region on a more likely path to sustainability. I don't know if you have it queued up, but we'd love to share the trailer with you right now, if that's possible. But if not, we certainly have it for the session that is the breakout. Here we go. We have a technical difficulty with the
No,
trailer?
it will come. They are doing. It's already there, working on it.
Well, if there's a technical difficulty, we can.
Tanya, it's working, or yes, it's coming.
One of the things my mother always taught me, when you borrow something, you always give it back in better shape than when you got it. We're not doing that.
The Earth tells us that it's in trouble in a bunch of different ways.
Climate change,
Mass starvation,
Ecological disaster.
we're seeing the effects all over this planet. The oceans are sick.
The air is unbreathable.
Farmland is turning to desert.
We are in the process of killing ourselves.
We are trashing the planet. Why are we doing that?
Population growth, it's an overwhelming problem.
The Earth is just plain ravaged by too many people consuming too many resources.
The numbers will continue to grow.
8 billion isn't sustainable.
It's been ramping up and ramping up. We need to turn things around.
There is no excuse to bury our heads in the sand.
Action is the antidote to despair.
It's not hopeless. There are many things we can do. We know we can change societies. It's a matter of people making the commitment.
We don't have the time to waste.
We still have coral reefs. We've still got forests around the world. Now's the time to save them. If we continue like we are, they're going to be lost.
We need to figure out how to live in harmony with planet Earth. It's for not only my grandson, but it's for all of yours.
The hope is that people will realize we're all in it together.
Every morning when I get up, I have hope.
I hope you'll enjoy that. It's a truly global film and with a global impact, and it's thrilling to share it with you all here at the foundation. 8 Billion Angels is the first feature-length film to depict how unsustainable population growth, adds to the struggles and challenges average people face in their daily lives. everything from the lack of access to clean drinking water to air pollution that causes chronic lung disease, and the diminishing crop yields experienced by farmers and fishermen around the world. Making this film not only confirmed the scope of the problem, but the indisputable need for a new approach to solving it. Everything that we as a global society have been attempting to do to fix the environment for the past 50 years hasn't worked. And by all accounts, every symptom is getting worse, not better. And unless and until we change our way of thinking, we will not solve this crisis. Many in the film world, many in the environmental community and in government have feared discussing this topic, despite knowing the facts. This film was meant to break that silence, to bring this subject out of the shadows and confront it, openly, honestly, and sensitively. It shares real hope and real solutions, offering an alternative vision to the future of better human health, economic prosperity, and social justice, and a path toward restoring the natural world and achieving genuine long-term sustainability. My hope is that everyone in India and around the world sees this film, embraces its message. And I thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to the next 2 days of this amazing conference.
Thank you very much, Terry, for your very interesting and enlightening keynote speech. I'm sorry that you had to keep yourself awake very early. It's in Philadelphia, but salute to your spirit. Not only today, but in the dry run of this conference, you were, I think, one of the constant features available for us. And your film is really very revealing. As you say, it breaks the silence to bring this subject to not only real solutions it offers, but also brings about, like we talk about, even IPCC, which has come out with this new report, doesn't talk much about this issue. Mobius Foundation's chairperson, Mr. Pradeep Berman, has been hammering on this since many years now, about the issue of population and how it is impacting each and every aspect of our environment. We also have, as I said earlier, we had this this series of television series on mission sustainability, population versus planet. We will have that in tomorrow's one of the sessions. So I think I was amazed when you just first contacted me on LinkedIn, I remember, about these issues. I was really, really fascinated by the kind of enthusiasm that you have shown and the way this 8 billion angels have come out. So thank you so much. We will hear you more tomorrow as well. For now, so many, we are really grateful. Now we turn over to Karthike Bhai, Mr. Karthike Sarabhai, founder director, Center for Environment Education in Ahmedabad. I had the privilege to work with Karthike Bhai, as I said, for almost 14 years together. In fact, it's a fabulous office. Karthike Bhai, I hope we have 40 offices across the country and almost a half dozen offices internationally abroad. And in fact, primary focus of Center for Environment Education under his leadership has been greening of India's formal education system and initiatives for biodiversity, climate change, many kind of educations combined together. This is what we call as sustainability education. So I remember long back, means when I was there, we were having a World Bank supported project on greening of curriculum of India that was implemented 16 states. Very successful program. So Karthike Bhai is one of the world's leading environment educators and a dedicated community builder. He was educated in Cambridge, Tripos in natural sciences and went on to do postgraduate work in development communication at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. He's a trustee of Sabarmati Ashram Preservation Memorial Trust. And this is one of the, I think every visitor from heads of the governments, they visit this ashram, one of the symbols of India's composite culture and peace. Mr. Sarabhai is also a member of many committees set up by Government of India and other organizations. Recipient of 2016 International Brandwein Medal for Community Service and Education. IUC and CEC also recognized his work. And in fact, he is recipient of Padma Shri by Government of India, one of the highest civilian awards. This is bestowed to him by the President of India. So I would not go into detail. There are many moments we have. The only other thing that I would like to mention is that this whole Icsc means he is one of the pioneers. He was the driving force behind this. When I met him after my superannuation from UNESCO, I contacted him and he very readily agreed to this idea. And he is also the chairperson of the technical advisory committee of Icsc, giving many ideas and advancing this agenda throughout. So may I request you, Karthik Bhai, to deliver your address.
Thank you very much, Rambuj, and for all those kind words. And Pradeep ji for the whole initiative of Mobius, which I have seen carefully over the last several years. As Rambuj says, we had a technical advisory committee, and most of the people are here today in the audiences. And this has really truly been a joint effort of several organizations and individuals. And I had the privilege of chairing the technical advisory committee, but I think it's important to note how, as it should be in environmental education, how these organizations can work together and come together not only for these 2 days events, but the time leading up to it and leading beyond it, and for which I think Rambuj ji and Pradeep ji should be complimented for the spirit of this. I think a lot has been said and we are running late, so I recognize that and I'll be brief. It was said how education is at the foundation of this, and many people do ask me that India in 1991, the Supreme Court of India said that environmental education needs to be a compulsory part of our formal system. And then 2003, again, it was restated. So we today have a generation of people, young people, who've gone through some form of environmental education. We ourselves have been in this since the center was formed in 84. We've been in it for several years. And one question people are asking is, do you see a difference? The fact that people have gone through environmental education, we had this whole decade of education for sustainable development, and again, linked it even closer with development issues. Has it made that type of difference that you expect? And I think it's a question which all of us as environmental educators do need to ask, that what difference has it made? There is no doubt that young people today are much more aware than what was several years ago. Many of them are doing things. They do actions. And Terry, I don't know whether you know about this, but there was something called the handprint, the ecological handprint, which came out of a school in India, which represented what one does, what action one takes in transformation. And I think your film said action is the antidote of all despair. That was a sentence out of your film just now. And action is critical. But I just wanted to add one more thing here, which is what we've learned from COVID also, that it is not just action, but action required to a scale at which it makes a difference. I think we have now reached a stage where there's a large number of people in the community and the population who are doing what they think they can. They might shun a plastic bag, they might segregate waste, they might use less energy, they might plant more trees, green their environments. A lot of things are being done. But the point is there is a crisis. And I think what we learned in COVID, as we dealt with it as a planet, as a whole, is that if you want to take action, you need it to come up to a certain level. You might need to get 80% of the population vaccinated before it will have an effect. We need to come out with some such parameters. We need to know that yes, we all want to take action, we all want to be part, but it's not just so that we feel good. We need action so that it makes that critical difference and reverses this triple crisis which has been mentioned, the climate change, biodiversity, and pollution. Pollution might be out of those three perhaps the simplest because it's so visible. Plastic pollution is something which we are working with WWF and UNEP on, and several other young people. So I don't want to say much just now because we all are waiting for the breakaway wonderful sessions which have been planned. But basically want to say that I think we need to treat it like a global issue now, a global problem. And my action has to fit in. My school's action or my community's action needs to fit in at a scale at which we can reverse this. We can stop it. And we need indicators. SDGs are certain indicators, but we need perhaps clearer indicators or fewer indicators which everyone can see. We should be able to see that we don't want to see trash, for instance, all over India as just one country, or the amount which is going into oceans from all over the world. We don't want to see it from next January. Can we do something over even 3 months or 4 months? And I think taking on campaigns like this, and I think therefore these conferences are very useful in us working together and using the tremendous power of environmental education and educational sustainable development to make that transformation which is required. Thank you, Rambul, and look forward to a wonderful conference.
Thank you very much, Karthike bhai. I think really inspiring words. Power of education, and that to power sustainability. I think we are trying to manifest it. All the delegates, they will witness. In fact, even this session was very powerful. We had a very powerful beginning. And I do endorse your view that, in fact, working together and talking together particularly is a wonderful thing. And beyond that, in fact, the issue that you highlighted about what difference we the educators have made so far. So, of course, you gave the example of Hand Friends, which is, of course, all about action towards sustainability. And there have been several, we can say, examples here and there. But unless we weave them together, and as you said, bring to the scale, to the level where you can have and I think this networking concept is very important in that. A network of environment educators, and they can bring together consolidated or coordinated action to make a narrative, whether it is ecosystem restoration, population stabilization, climate literacy, all those areas. We would look forward to your guidance and support in all these. Of course, that's always forthcoming. So thank you so much. Now, in fact, we have plenty of time for the plenary, these breakaway sessions. I would just like to brief you about the sessions for today. We have 5 sessions, and session 1 on school education. You can go to the portal. Of course, all the speakers, they have got their links, individual links for each session. But all others, they are free to go into any of the sessions. Like session 1 is school education, which is being done by Center for Environment Education and Wildlife Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF India. Then session 2 is IT-based solutions for education. Again, WWF India and Sashakt Bharat and NIOS. You all might be knowing National Institute of Open Schooling is one of the world's biggest open schooling platform. So they will be in this session 2. Session 3, role of youth. It's one of the most powerful. I think I saw there were a lot of interest for this session. A lot of people have registered for the session. TERI, CEE, TER Policy Center, Climate Reality Project, WWF, all these organizations are in the role of youth. Of course, Mobius is all across in all these sessions. Session 4 is climate literacy leads to green jobs. Very interesting session. Earth Day Network and earthday.org. These Earth Day Network, Dr. Kamini Singh, she heads the Asia Pacific unit of Earth Day Network. She was very, very enthusiastic about this session, and she have brought almost around half a dozen experts from all over the world to the really very interesting session this should be. Then finally, session 5, education for promoting sustainable tourism in coastal area. Again, a Foundation for Environment Education and Center for Environment Education. Very interesting session, and particularly this Blue Flag initiative, very interesting because India's 8 coasts have been designated as Blue Flag, and that was this designation was in a ceremony headed by the Union Environment Minister, I suppose, in the month of July. So these 5 sessions you are free to navigate through, and there is some time, still some 5-6 minutes left, and let me take this opportunity to thank each one of you. Karthik Bhai, Terry Spare, and Mr. Atul Bagai, Mr. Pradeep Burman. He has been, he gave a very inspiring speech in the opening session, and he will be there throughout. I think tomorrow's population session, I thought he will speak up there, which is close to his heart. As I said, this whole mission sustainability, what we name the major population stabilization campaign, and on ground this implementation that we are doing in this Uttar Pradesh. Karthik, where you mentioned about this to scaling up some of the actions. In fact, this population one we started with 2 districts. We are going to scale up in 8 high TFR districts of UP. In fact, problem lies there only in some of those 8 or 10, some 10 blocks particularly in all these 8 districts, close to around some 60-70 blocks, you can say, where we will be intensively working during next few years. So that will be another area where we will bring action to the scale. So there are several such initiatives, and we will together work on these areas. So for now, thank you so much, everyone. And in another 5 minutes, we join the breakout rooms. One information for all the session leaders, you have to be very, very prompt, like you be on time, 16:30 hours, 4:30 India time, this ends the breakout session, and then session leaders will come to the plenary to present their findings. So there will, if you come early, maybe 5 minutes early, then you can consolidate your findings for presentation in the plenary. So please take care of that, and of your session. Every session coordinator is in charge, supported by rapporteurs. There are 7 volunteers from the reporters for environment.
मैम शीतल मैम,
यस
मैम दूसरा डिवाइस जो है ना हॉल प्लेनरी हॉल चल रहा है, उसको म्यूट कर दीजिए, नहीं इको होगा।
हो गया है म्यूट, आई हैव म्यूटेड इट।
ओके, और मैम थोड़ा सा वेट करिए क्योंकि सेशन 3 यूट्यूब और फेसबुक में लाइव होगा, तो हॉल प्लेनरी हॉल फिनिश होगा तब जाके स्टार्ट करेंगे हम।
ठीक है, आप हम लोगों को बस हिंट दे सकते हैं लाइव?
मैं आपको बोल दूँ।
हाँ, आप हमें बताना, जैसे आप बोलेंगे फिर हम स्टार्ट कर देंगे।
यस मैम। हाँ जी।
हेलो मैम।
Hi everybody.
I've just heard that Dr. Rambut said that we have to finish the session by 4:30. Or I heard it wrong.
I did hear him. Should we check with Kavya? Probably she's there. Kavya? I thought it's 4:40, no? But it's still, I think we'll have to just cut short a lot of things.
Ma'am, just confirming.
That is.
Ma'am, it's like we can take 1 hour strictly, not to extend that.
That's fine.
That's 1 hour.
That's fine. Thank you.
Excuse me, Shital ma'am. Hello.
Hanji.
Ma'am, now we are live. Now we are live, ma'am. Can you start?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, all, and a very warm welcome to Icsc's special session on role of youth under the theme Education for Ecosystem Restoration. We just heard that this is the decade of ecosystem restoration, and we also heard in our plenary session that Mr. Atul Bhagai said that if our ecosystems are healthy, if our climate is stable, the healthier would be our planet Earth, and healthy will be the people of this planet. But there is no denying that biodiversity loss and climate change catastrophes are taking place across the globe. And this has led us to the crucial juncture where we have less than a decade to act on our changing climate and restore our ecosystem for our healthy future and safe world to live in. And what makes the role of youth crucial is that we have 1.8 billion youth, the largest generation of youth in the history, who are calling this world their home. And they are the one who would feel the impact of degradation and deteriorating ecosystem the most. Therefore, we at CE, Terry Policy Center, Climate Reality India, WWF India, and Terry has curated this special session where we will focus on the role of youth in taking leadership roles for ecosystem restoration and the opportunities for youth to engage actively. To learn more about the session and the role of youth in ecosystem restoration, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Madhavi Joshi, Senior Program Director at CEE, having over 30 years of experience working with youth and education for sustainable development. Madhavi ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Sheetal. Yeah, thanks. I look forward to this wonderful session and hearing from a lot of young people about what they've been doing in this area. Just to give a background, I thought I would just talk about a little bit, since the theme is ecosystem, the ecosystem restoration and climate literacy, and these two are really very, very connected aspects. And as we know that the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration was launched this year in June, and it's led by UNEP and FAO. It aims to massively scale up restoration of degraded and destroyed ecosystems as a proven measure to fight climate change and enhance food security, water supply, and biodiversity. So all these aspects are interconnected if we were talking of ecosystem restoration. And it's fundamental to achieving the sustainable development goals, as mentioned in the plenary earlier as well, mainly those related to climate change, poverty, eradication, food security, water and biodiversity conservation. And it's also a pillar of international environmental conventions, as also mentioned earlier, such as the Ramsar Conventions on Wetlands and the Rio Conventions on Biodiversity, desertification and climate change. So it's a global issue, but also affects individually to each of us. The UN Decade, it aims to prevent, halt, and reverse the degradation of ecosystems on every continent and in every ocean, as the UNEP, as the ecosystem degradation website would say. I borrowed a lot from that today. It can help to end poverty, combat climate change, and prevent a mass extinction. And it will only succeed if everyone plays a part. To date, 115 countries have joined the campaign, making commitments to restore crucial ecosystems like forests, rivers, and grasslands. We heard about the commitment by India as well, this just earlier. And there is a UN Decade task force which has been set up, focusing on best practices. And they released 10 principles to guide restoration efforts. Basically looking at what would be the good practices in terms of restoration. And these 10 principles would guide action over the decade in ecosystem restoration. And of course, it is time to act, but it is also time to get restoration right. And that's something important. We do a lot of restoration, but what actions we take need to be long-term, need to be looked at in a way whether they are sustainable, whether they are looking at livelihood issues, whether they are inclusive, and all of that is part of these principles that are part of the ecosystem restoration decade initiatives. There is a report which has been released recently. It's called Becoming Generation Restoration, Ecosystem Restoration for People, Nature and Climate. And it synthesizes this evidence of the state of degradation of the world's ecosystems and details economic, environmental, and social rewards that restoration can bring. So it has a lot of meaning to us in years to come. It's also one of the important ways of delivering nature-based solutions. And we need to learn from the way nature-based solutions are being practiced across the world. For looking at food, looking at a number of all the issues related to climate and biodiversity conservation. So it's also about long-term, thinking long-term, not looking at quick fixes to solutions. And the beauty is that it can happen at any scale and everyone has a role to play. And young people, as yourselves, are critical to achieving this agenda, being impacted by degradation of ecosystems and related consequences, and can be influencers in their community, creating real impact. The UNEP major group of children and youth says that youth are now championing sustainability across the globe. Empowering youth will have a springboard effect to motivate more youth to join the movement of preserving and restoring ecosystems. Young people have already contributed to the strategy of the UN Decade by hosting consultations in over 20 countries organized through the UNEP major group for children and youth. A young participant at the Global Landscape Forum, which was organized in New York in 2019, says what our generation needs to get a lot better at is not just talking about the issue of climate crisis, but also emphasizing the solutions. And CEE this year collaborated with the Global Center for Adaptation on a study investigating the role of young people in climate action. Some key messages from this study emphasize that there is a great potential in youth-led action, but young people are also not a resource to exploit. Their actions should never substitute the responsibility of grown-ups who hold political and economic power. It also has a message for governments which says young people are too little involved in decision-making. Engaging them is consistent with climate adaptation, as it is also a question of intergenerational justice. We look forward to hearing from our youth speakers today about their work and be inspired by it. To end, I quote Tim Christopherson, coordinator of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration at UNEP. This is your decade, and your actions will be very important to make this a success. It is still possible to turn this moment of crisis into a moment of hope, a bit like Star Wars. May the forest be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhavi ji, for your inspiring words, setting the tone for the session and giving us this holistic perspective also, that why we are here together and having this special session on the role of youth. But before moving forward, let's take a poll to understand the importance of ecosystem restoration. We have prepared a few questions for all of you, and depending on the time we will have, we'll keep popping up these fun questions. Here, may I request our technology team to display the first question for our participants. It says restoring 15% of converted lands in the right place could prevent dash of the project species extinction. And if we can just have around 30 seconds to answer the question. Is it possible to also have the feedback which we are receiving from the participants? If can we display it on the screen? Right. And that's right, like 100% of our audience has said 60%, and which is true. So, I mean, just by this question, we can understand that if we just restore 50% of the converted land in the right places, it could prevent 60% of the project species in extinction. And that's the beauty and power of ecosystem restoration. Now, coming back, it is important young people are involved at all levels of decision making and action towards sustainability, as Madhvi ji mentioned. Ecosystem restoration's efforts need to take cognizance of potential resources, creativity, and innovation that young people can contribute. Today, we are joined by 6 young leaders who are making the real difference in their community through their efforts on the ground. They will share their inspirational stories and learning with us. With this, I would first like to invite Ms. Kamini Singh. She is a climate reality leader and working with the Sparsh Foundation, where she is working with the youth community on ecosystem restoration in tribal affected areas of Odisha. Kamini, over to you.
Thank you, Sheetal. I'm very excited to share my story with you all. So let's quickly move to the slides. Is my screen visible?
Ma'am, it's end slide. Okay. Please begin from slide.
1.
Yes, Kamini, you can put it on the slide.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So we started this Youth for SDG program in Tribal Aspirational District Raigada in Odisha to promote youth engagement and to bring forward rural tribal youth, especially girls, on social development goals, sustainable development goals, socio-economic and environmental inclusiveness, sustainability, and to generate employment and livelihood opportunities for them. So these are the strategies and process which we adopted in engaging these youth in climate action. What we did, we formed youth clubs and Balika Mandals in tribal villages. Then these clubs took over the leadership in their community affairs. They were kind of resource person or the contact person for us in the community. They do weekly sanitation drives. All these are led by the clubs itself. We have provided them with the sanitation kits. Plantation drives are also led by the clubs. occasionally we do career counselings on green career opportunities. I would like to mention that these youth are basically dropouts, like they have studied till standard 5th, 8th, or say 10th. So accordingly, we organize career counseling sessions for them. Then coming to digital exposure of these youths, when we started our intervention in these villages, what we observed was huge digital divide. So to bridge the digital gap, we planned for digital learning centers or say spaces in these villages. But steady electricity and 24 hours electricity is a big challenge. So we came up with solar powered centers, solar powered digital learning centers. So right now we have 10 solar powered digital learning centers in tribal villages, and we have trained 530 rural youths on digital literacy and soft skill in just 15 months. And it is a continuous program. We are still training other youths as well. And you'll be amazed to know that 72% of the beneficiaries are the first time user of digital device. So it is a very good opportunity for these people to learn and grow in these centers. These centers are multi-purpose center, as you can see in the pictures. We have also provided community library with 24 hours internet facility and a trainer who can train them in their local language. So after career counseling and digital exposure, we move towards their livelihood promotion. As we all know, fashion industry is one of the most polluting industry in the world, and eco-friendly fashion, sustainable fashion is the need of the hour. And this has been made possible by these beautiful girls, which you can see in the slide. So we have formed a producer group consisting of 25 girls from a village, Bada Chandali, situated in Raigada district. We gave them training on designing and production of bamboo-based biodegradable jewelry. And you'll be very happy to know that these girls have done a business of over 2 lakh rupees in just 3 months. You can see them wearing jewelry designed and produced by them. So coming to Green Campus program, as you all know, one of the flagship program of Climate Reality India. We started this program in 2019 in Raigada. We have 7 schools registered under Green Campus program. We have trained 186 teachers on climate change and sustainable development goals. And these schools are now adopting sustainable and green measures in the school. Few schools are also ready for the final audit. We also have Climate Change and Sustainability Center in Shri Shri University. So what we are doing, we are not only working with schools, but colleges and universities as well. And we are covering youth of all age groups. So coming to this very famous Mission Million Fruit Trees from Climate Reality Odisha. This program was conceived in the backdrop of Cyclone Fani in 2019 with an aim to plant 1 million fruit trees in 5 years. So we have planted 6.5 lakh trees in Odisha coast. And this Mission Million Fruit Trees has created a lasting impact among the environmentalists and other climate activists in the state to undertake this plantation drive in the whole state, across the state. So these are my learnings, few of the learnings. One of them is youth should be given awareness and sensitization input on climate change and related issues, rather than just continuing the environmental conservation. Second is Climate Reality Odisha has formed a Climate Reality network taking all district representatives, all of them are youth, which gives a hope to influence policy decision of the government in coming days, later stage. So we can replicate this model in other states as well. And one of the important point, it is important to connect youth on climate issues, contexting their localities. For example, if I'll be speaking about Melbourne or say Paris, the story from those places with these people with whom I'm working with, they'll be least interested. So why not to bring stories or realities from their own localities to them, so that they'll feel more attached towards these kinds of issues. And the other is Green Campus program is very effective if in incubating and practicing local solutions to climate challenge. What we are observing here, teachers and students, they are coming up with very good ideas to replicate this in their campuses or in their villages as well. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamini, and thank you for sharing your amazing work and learning. And especially how in the whole process you are empowering and inspiring many other young girls and women through your own leadership. I'm sure when you are working with them, you are also in a way empowering and giving them enough confidence to work in the sustainability. So more power to you. Moving next, we have Miss Neha Sahi, UNEP Ted Turner champion. She'll be sharing their work on urban stream restoration in Vadodara, Gujarat.
Hi everyone.
Neha, over to you.
Thank you, Sheetal. Just a second, I'll share my slide. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everyone, my name is Neha and I am from Vadodara and currently based in Bangalore. And I'd like for all of you to remember this picture of this bridge clogged up with plastic waste and solid waste. And moving forward, we started working on the stream about 2 years ago as a part of plastic tide turners and in continuation to my master's dissertation. And this is a 7.5 kilometer stream. And it's directly connected to the riverine system of Vishwamitri in Vadodara, which is the lifeline of the city, and inhabits crocodiles and turtles and a large flora and fauna around it. And the area from where this stream begins is peri-urban and there are agricultural fields, so it's quite cleaner over there. But when it enters towards the city, it gets clogged up with waste. It has unchecked disposal of sewage and there are no STPs, which is the sewage treatment plants, placed around it. So we started mapping it out just for the curiosity. And then later we found out that this is a natural rivulet and not just a nala as it was claimed. Later on, we started doing the scientific assessment with respect to what the velocity of the stream was, what was the water quality, what was the soil quality around it, and how deep the stream was in different locations because of encroachment on all the banks and all the regions surrounding the stream and the buffer zones that should be there. Which led us to planning a program for 2 phases. The phase 1 was primary assessment, in which my team and I, 15 students, we planned and assessed the stream's characteristics, understood what the water quality was and how we can make it better. But we understood that under the Bellagio principle, it's believed that all the stakeholders should be involved in conservation projects, and there should be a multi-scale project which includes the locals, the public policy makers, the public decision makers, and the architects, and whoever is responsible for the conservation program to sustain itself. So we met local advisors and civil engineers who told us that the stream is not even being mapped, because it's not that long, but it's directly connected to a river and the waste directly pours into the Vishwamitri channel and then ultimately into the Arabian Sea. So we did a health and awareness survey around the stream because there were a lot of informal settlements around it. And then we did the management of solid waste. And then ultimately the goal was to stabilize the banks which were encroached and reduce the unnatural erosion on the surrounding of the stream. So during the waste management, we were lucky enough that the pandemic hadn't hit us at the time in February, and we were able to gather about 350 students from the Faculty of Science and Faculty of Commerce at the Maharaja Sayajirao University, and about 700 kg of waste was removed from the banks in one day, and from which 300 was thermocol, which we tried to repurpose using acetone in order to sanitize it and in order to remold it into these small planters that you can see in the second picture and in small wall hangings and stuff. As for the dry waste and the organic waste that we found, we had a student who was working on composting, and she took it into her hands and completed it as a compost. Along with that, we had the team members who met the informal settlement residents and discussed with them what kind of zoonotic diseases they were facing during the rains, what were the problems they were facing during the flooding, because we've been seeing flooding and due to flash floods and due to clogging of bridges and waste in our rivers for the past 5 years now. And it was very helpful of the local newspapers to cover the information in vernacular languages in order to make it more accessible and understandable to the locals and, not just in a scientific manner. And later on, we kept monitoring the stream throughout the 2020. This was January, March, and August, and it was an immense change that we were able to observe. Also, from March onwards, we were not able to monitor because of the pandemic, but still somehow we observed that the stream has its own natural resilience, which it was able to sustain itself. And in September, the bridge work was supposed to begin, but there were a few drawbacks and a few setbacks, due to which the phase 2, we couldn't begin the construction of the new bridge, which provided a more free-flowing model for the stream. But yeah, these are the local residents of Bhukhi and also the star of the project, and they were loved and appreciated everywhere. And this picture was clicked by my friend, and we had turtles and other fauna. We were told that there were wild foxes and everything roaming around Bhukhi when it was not that encroached. And so we started working on the bioengineering aspect of the stream using geotextile. So we did not had a lot of students or a lot of manpower because of the pandemic in March, but somehow 5 of us were able to manage and call up a bulldozer and put stones around it in order to start the bamboo and the geotextile fiber work. And we sewed it ourselves. And then this is how it looked in June 2021. This was the bank which was eroded, and construction waste was deposited on the banks of this. And we were able to put a geotextile fiber over it with support of bamboos, and nothing that would actually, even if the system or even if the structure would fail and fall into the stream, it won't affect it. It's all biodegradable. And that is how we concluded. And this is the last image that I'd like people to see. Like, this was when we got the bridge clean, and we had immense support from the alumni and the researchers at MS University, because this was the first time in many years that the stream was cleaner and the bridge was more beautiful than what it used to be. So yeah, I thank Mobius Foundation and CE. They have always supported this project, and we were even part of the Youth for Earth campaign and awards. And CE has always been there since the plastic tide turners. So yeah, thank you everyone for having me.
Thank you, Sneha, and we wish you and your team all the best. Because in almost every city we see such scenes of dirty nalas or a stream, and I'm sure many of our young participants who have joined us today have learned a lot from your project and inspired to take to transform their own surroundings. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Next, we have Mr. Samarth Khanna, a 20 years old who is rewilding the urban spaces. He's working on a number of sites in Delhi NCR where he's creating habitats and eco zones close to the cities. Now I invite Samarth to share his story.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll just share my screen, and I hope you can see my slide.
Yes.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. So I'm Samarth from Faridabad, and today I'm here to share with you a story of a project, one of its kind in the Delhi NCR, that is the mini forest of Faridabad. And mini forest of Faridabad, to give you an idea, is a small patch of land. Here on your screen, you can see a green island next to a busy roundabout and a residential area. And this land was a place from where on an average 300 cars pass through this spot in Mana. So to give you all an idea, as you all may be knowing, that NCR, the National Capital Region, is a highly polluted area. And Faridabad has been a city which has topped all the charts in terms of pollution. So this was a site bang on the source of one of the pollution over here in the city. So it was important for us to identify that this is the patch of land where you have some possibility of doing a change and solving the pollution problem. But the reality was that you had a bigger problem over here on this side, that was the waste. And this was the waste over here at the site, where the site was covered with heaps of garbage, and we had to almost segregate each and every bit of the waste so that we could manage it in a better way. So this was the picture from the site in 2017, where there used to be heaps of garbage, and you had children, helping us to clean the particular patch of land. And to give you an idea, that till date from 2017, we have cleared so far 5,000 kgs of plastic from the small patch of land in Faridabad that we now call the mini forest. And the problem here was that the waste was not just present on the surface, it was present below the soil surface as well. So you can see here one of our crew members helping us to clean the garbage from the various layers of soil over here. You can see you have the construction and demolition waste, you have the plastic, you have the polythene, you have the glass, you have the blades, and you also have the syringes, the biomedical waste too being disposed over here. And whenever you have waste in contact with the soil or anything, any medium on which the plant grows, it tends to have some or the other impact. It's going to pollute the soil further. It's going to release the ions into that. So the soil which we inherited at this mini forest was completely polluted and the land was barren. So anyways, the cleaning happened and we had children as young as 4-year-old, 6 years old, and the average age was 8 to 11 years old working to bring a change at this mini forest in Faridabad. So you had the children started the plantation helping us dig the pits for the saplings, and also giving a chance for the herbs, shrubs, and trees, and even the climbers. So this is how the site initially looked when the plantation was done. So you can see the plants are barely able to survive, right? The land is so polluted. And the soil was so hard that it was almost impossible for roots to spread their area. And this was the challenge over here. So these are the visuals from 2017. And here's how it looked this year during the rainy season. So this picture was clicked just a few days back at the mini forest, a site which was once a garbage yard, now converted into a biodiverse ecozone where various plants and animals live together as ecological communities. So this is the grassland of the mini forest. At the mini forest, we have a woodland, we have a grassland, and also a third habitat which exists, that is the wetland. So this is the team of the mini forest, our core team, all our young children who helped us out. And this is how the wetland came into the existence at the mini forest. A pit was dug and we used the natural sealants to layer all these areas of the wetland. And here's how it looks today. A wetland full of aquatic life and the flora and the fauna which is there. And here's how we feel our wetland. Faridabad is flooded. The streets of Faridabad are flooded after the rain. So all this rainwater is allowed and poured into this wetland where the water is used by our plants, fish, and various other creatures that live over here. These are the dragonflies that live at the mini forest, which control the population of mosquitoes. Believe me that one dragonfly eats up to 200 mosquitoes in one day. So we have mini forests standing out as a habitat to control the mosquito menace as well. So when I talk about the diversity at the mini forest, when we had started, we had no butterflies, no moths, in fact, over there. And as of now, we have more than 28 species of butterflies at the mini forest, and it has been recognized as a butterfly hotspot by the Times of India in the whole of South Haryana. And you have now 130 species of plants native to the Aravallis and the Yamuna landscape in the mini forest Faridabad. And when we had started, we had just 6 species, and now it has risen to 130 species, which is a great number. And when I talk about the plants, and when I talk about the butterflies, you can't ignore the birds. We have around 48 species of birds at the mini forest, all of all shapes and sizes. And you had the Indian paradise flycatcher this year, which is the big white bird you can see, and also this little tiny bird on the lower right corner. This is known as the Hume's leaf warbler. It migrates all the way from parts of Bhutan and to spend winters in areas like the mini forest, which was once a garbage yard. So at the mini forest, we have tried to repurpose the construction and demolition waste as well to create a walkway to give our visitors a chance to experience the biodiversity and the ecosystem over here. So the construction and demolition waste equal to the weight of 33 Asiatic elephants has been repurposed to give this form of a walkway at our mini forest. And the same place which was once a garbage yard has now become a place for environmental education for the children over there. So you can see school children before the COVID times who had come to the mini forest to understand the ecology and the ecosystems over there. And now that we are working on multiple sites in Delhi and NCR, we have our own nursery where we are growing saplings native to our ecosystem to support these projects which are happening there. And we were thankful to the Hindustan Times for covering that story. And thank you so much, the organizers, for giving me a chance to share the work which I have done at the mini forest Faridabad. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing your work with us, and we all can see how passionately you are involved in the restoration work, and we need many youth leaders like you. So more power to you, keep inspiring us. Thank you so much. With this, now I invite our next youth speaker, Mr. Chinmay Prakash Sawant. He's member of Global Youth Biodiversity Network, and I invite him to share his work on restoration of grassland ecosystems in Kirasal region. Chinmay,
Yes,
over to you.
I'm sharing the screen. Thank you. Is it visible?
No, sir. We cannot see it.
Okay, 1 minute. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yes. Hello everyone, myself Chinmay Prakash Sawant. I am an Indian Youth Biodiversity Network Maharashtra State Coordinator. This is a Kiraksal village, that is a hill name called Tambie Hills, and you see this team that working in the grasslands of this region. I tell you first about the specification of this region. The region is coming under drought region of the Deccan Plateau in Maharashtra. As we seen that in the state of Maharashtra, the Satara district have a very diversity of biodiversity, because the Western Ghats, Mahabaleshwar, Koyna region, and Sayade Tiger Reserve are very vast. And from that eastern region, having a very less rainfall and have different types of grassland patches diversity. So it is a very important to see and document this biodiversity. So grasslands diversity, the grassland ecosystems are primary producers of the grasses. So grasslands are very much important. As you've seen that this is the Tambie Hills in the rainy season, and this is a first slide you've seen that it is in summer season. So what is the difference you've seen in that in the rainy season also the plantation work or the watershed management plan is done in the grassland. So somewhat effect is done, not a very. So this can be effect to the farmers, these animals and other systems. Overall, you've seen that 24% of the Indian land is covered with the grassland. So grasslands is very much important. So what is the importance of the grasslands? It's food for many grazing animals, habitat for birds, food for humans. So this region, you've seen that the photo of the Wagzai lakes of our Kiraksal region. The watershed management plan has been done here, not so in a detail that not to harming the animals or not to harming the flora and fauna. The region should have to get a scarcity of water. So first thing in this region having the water scarcity. So when the water is come there, then it's a diversity is formed here. So in the earlier gazelles or antelopes are in the very large numbers, but local extinctions are due to the habitat destruction and the drought regions. So we work on that to how to restore this ecosystem. That here you seen that all the grasses and trees are there. In the previous, this is not like this situation. It's a very barren land. So anybody will come here and see that this is all what is barren and what is wildlife is there. But we restore that wildlife by trees, not to cut the trees. On the three important implementation, that not to cutting the trees, first of all, then second hunting, and third is overgrazing. The overgrazing also lost the diversity of grasses. So we first implement on this with the help of the Gram Panchayat and Forest Department. We work on this. So what's need to be done? Grasslands are very much ecosystems. So carnivore conservation is a very much important in that. Indian wolves are there, striped hyena is there. So Indian wolves now only study that Indian wolves are a very endangered wolf species in India. Around 2,500 or 3,000, around 2,500 or 3,000 wolves are remain in overall in India. So it's a very critical or to have a destruction. To save the wolves, we have to be save their grassland ecosystems. So village environment and local community involvement is very much important. That's what we will done in Kiraksal. So you've seen that this is overall hotspot regions of our region. The Tambie Hills, the Kiraksal Lake, the Kuran Forest, that Nadi grasslands, or Zamba Hill is a region, small scrub forest type region. So it is in Marathi. So I will explain in that in English. No worry. So Tambie Hills, you've seen that what is situation in the first image and what is the situation in this. So it's a very current forest in the summer. You've seen that in the previous slide I seen it's a very overall blank. So now it's how it seems. So ecosystem restoration in the grasslands is very much important. So we organize various sessions on the grasslands ecosystem. The villagers' involvement is local. The Pani Foundation, Dr. Avinash Kaur is also come to Kiraksal and they addressing to us. So Bird Week in Kiraksal have been celebrated very vast. You've seen that the grassland region having a very diversity of so Bird Week should have to be celebrated like this. So local involvement, forest department or students, they can easy to see that documentation what is there in our region. So butterfly and bird watching, it's a very important thing to be document or to see. So we are organizing various awareness sessions by attending. We are taking the local community forest department on the organization and we are implementing that. So Kiraksal is the first village to celebrate International Wolf Day in India, not only the Maharashtra. So it all the days we are celebrating. Tiger Days we are celebrating, Elephant Day we are celebrating, not celebrating the Wolf Day. So Wolf Day is celebrating international at a very vast level. That is all the forest department take in charge. Village development community will take that in charge and they celebrate in the vast level. That's all the news features in the Maharashtra. That is a very great thing to us. Now only Dr. Clement Ben, CCF or Chief Conservator Forest of Kolhapur region have come to the Kiraksal recently. And they also said that conservation reserve will have to be declared or we have to be proceed for that to save these grassland ecosystems. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinmay. Thank you for sharing your wonderful work. Next, we have Ms. Mrunali Ross. Again, she's member of Global Youth Biodiversity Network, and she's with us to present her research work on restoration of restoring vulnerable corridors at Navegaon and Tadopa Tiger Reserve. Mrunali, over to you. And I request all our youth speakers to keep their talk under 5 minutes as they are really running short of time. Mrunali?
Ma'am, I think she'll not join.
Okay, we cannot see Mrunali. And so
hello?
We'll see. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
hello. Yes. Yeah, just 1 second.
Hi, Mrunali, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I'm in field, so I'm joining on my mobile. Can you please tell me how to connect and share the screen on mobile?
I'm not sure if you'll be able to share your screen on the mobile. We'll request you if you can
hello?
speak.
Yes, yeah. Please open your PowerPoint firstly. Can you open your PowerPoint?
I think I'll share it for on behalf of her, so she can speak if that is fine.
Yeah.
I hope my screen is visible.
Mrunali,
yeah.
Yes, Atharv, your screen is visible. And again, I request all the speakers to keep their talk under 5 minutes as they are really running short of time.
Thank you so much for introducing me, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. So today's my topic is ecological restorations for coal mines and degraded land. Coal mines in India. Coal Mines in India Limited has the 352 mines, of which the 158 are the underground, and the 174 open cast and 20 mixed mines. Important coal mines area in India includes the Jharkhand, Meghalaya, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Madhya Pradesh. So you can see in the map the distribution of the coal mines reservoir by states. India being the rich in the excellent hard rocks is a result of various types of mineral resources. Distribution of the coals in India in the two categories: Gondwana coal fields that are 250 million year old, and terrestrial coal fields that are 50 to 60 million year old. Next slide, please. Yeah. Mining impact of the wildlife. Surface coal mine is the destructive process is required a large area of land to disrupted, resulting in number of the environmental concerns that can have both direct and indirect impact on wildlife. Coal mining has a serious lasting negative impact on wildlife. In the short term, species can be killed or displaced from their habitat. In the long term, many wildlife species face the impact resulting from their habitat and being destroyed. Construction and mining activities can cause the wildlife deaths and disturb the displaced wildlife population. Typically, direct mortalities from the mining activities occurs as far as the result of the interaction between wildlife and mining equipment, increases the traffic and other development. Other impact of the coal mining includes air pollution and water contamination. The exhausts from heavy equipment and transport vehicles contain harmful gases, including sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide, as well as the transmetal such as lead. Surface the water contamination from increases the sediment loads can cause the decreases in the aquatic oxygen content and light penetration, reducing the growth aquatic plant and resulting the mortality of the fish and other aquatic species developed depend on the plants and food source. Coal mining displays and wildlife population in the most obvious way by forcing the wildlife living on that landscape to move. The survival likelihood of wildlife species that are the mobile enough to avoid the development decreases when they are forced to move to location already occupied by other wildlife. Next slide, please. Full and effective ecosystem restoration. Some species depend on very particular native habitat. Restoring the mined land to meet the needs native wildlife and plant species is the significant long-term challenges. The goals is to establish a diverse, productive, functional, and sustainable ecosystem of the wildlife of native plants that as resemble the diversity and the health that existed before the land were minded. Successful reclamation involves meeting certain criteria, which in the most states includes the replacing the topsoil, restoring disturbed water flow, preventing erosion, and reestablishing a diverse, effective, and permanent vegetative cover. All through the important these standard are not restoring quality wildlife habitat due to the challenges of restoring native wildlife habitat in the arid region. Not a single mined area in the has been fully restored to its pre-mining wildlife habitat condition. Mining always permanently alert the ecosystem and long-term and cumulative impact the coals mining and subsequent lag.
Our session, which was that we didn't really touch on this in great detail, but vaguely there is a bit of a delusion among governments that they actually are providing sustainable education, sustainable development education. There's a bit of a delusion they're providing climate education. There's a bit of a delusion and illusion that they're providing environmental literacy. I think the litmus test is, if you ask any young person leaving school in any country right now, do they feel that they are equipped for the seismic changes that are going to happen on this planet unless we deal with climate change? Do they feel equipped to actually think through the creative processes of how they could contribute in the economy and in society to dealing with these and changing the ship around? Most young people, even in richer economies like the UK, but in poor economies too, feel singularly unprepared by the formal education system for the task at hand. And that would seem that when computing came in, governments really jumped on that, right? They started educating all young people about computing. This was the new economy. The new economy has to be a green economy if we're going to save this planet and its people, and the children need to be educated and equipped for these transitions, which will affect their lives, not my life, and to be able to contribute to solving these problems in creative and productive and green economic ways.
Oh, very well said. In fact, yes, awareness may be, but is that awareness leading to some action? Real action, and that too, transformation will happen only when naturally that awareness or knowledge or information, whatever our education system provides, is translates or transform the learner to take tangible action linked to their profession, jobs, or wherever they are. Means the one you can say access is that create green jobs. The other one is greening of the existing jobs. Means that is where the real transformation required. What we can call is a transfitting or transformation into the existing jobs towards green economy. Exactly. So that is where means this education has to lead.
Right, that also comes to skills training. You're absolutely right. I mean, even in Germany, where they're trying to, they provide grants for people to install heat pumps in homes, which would reduce emissions from the household. They don't have enough people skilled in installing heat pumps. Now that's in Germany, right? So there is a massive skills story here for the existing workforce, so that that all the technologies available to make a healthier world can actually be deployed in just very ordinary things like things you fit in homes. Yeah, people are very conservative. What they've learned, they tend to carry on doing. They need to be reskilled as well to realize there are new ways of doing things.
That's true. Skilling and reskilling.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong learning. Thank you so much. I think this was very interesting.
Thank you, Ram.
And very interesting presentation. I think we will look forward to the tangible outcome of this group. Means maybe in the concluding plenary, some of these points will be taken care. Thank you so much. I think Neha, you are in which group?
Session 2, IT-based solution, Dr. Rambaj. Hi, hello everyone. Good evening.
So can you make the presentation of your group, session 2?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this session particularly delved into various challenges and opportunities with respect to IT-based solution for education. Of course, the global pandemic has, seemingly accelerated the need for online learning and IT-based solutions for education. But at the same time, we cannot deny the fact that, we have been for long trying to embed technology into education. It's been over a decade since we have been sort of trying to do that. There has certainly been a significant shift to online learning and education technology in the last decade. So, because, at this point of time, distance learning and online medium is the only option because of the school closures. One very important aspect that we kind of discussed was that children certainly learn better through technology. They learn faster through technology because of the fact that they already have an affinity to this medium. But the teachers they lack the requisite skills to be able to plan and impart, those things. So that certainly came out as a big one. over in today's session. What we kind of looked at is the huge digital divide amongst various sectors in the country, various, if we are to compare the urban and the rural, even tier 2 cities, it's basically the divide is such that it's not allowing people to access modern information. There is a lack of digital infrastructure, even though we know that the efforts are accelerated towards developing this infrastructure because the government has a strong inclination towards it. What really came out as a big one was the teacher capacity, which was not just in terms of IT skills, but also their understanding of the issues pertaining to environment and sustainability, because there is so much of misinformation around, how is a teacher equipped to address environmental issues and sustainability in her classroom? Does she know the right pedagogies? Apart from that, what came out as a big challenge was how to create a learning experience through an online medium where we can provide immersive learning experience to a child. Generally, the attention span on digital medium is so low that we cannot hold our audience for too long. So, and last year we were all grappling with multiple things where we were we did not know what exactly to do. We were kind of, a lot of hit and trial was happening, but I think so for today a lot of learning has also happened, and we are, I think so, doing much better on that front. One thing that I kind of brought up during this conversation was the cyber security issue, particularly because there are children involved. When children come on a digital platform, what are the various security measures which are taken so that the child privacy is not violated? So there are a whole lot of those things which were kind of brought up during the discussion. One thing which sort of was discussed was that there is a lack of literacy skills amongst the students, but at the same time, IT based solutions can give us more advanced tools where children can learn through various mediums. It doesn't have to be simple literacy and numeracy. Mediums like audio visuals and audio can be used to kind of impart learning. So that came up as a big opportunity, within those challenges. I think so. Everybody was sort of discussing that even though we see many challenges when it comes to IT-based solutions for education, at the same time, it has also opened up tons of opportunities for us, because since last year, since the pandemic hit us, we were not left with any choice. Which is why various technologies have also evolved and come a long way in providing solutions addressing these gaps. So another thing that we kind of discussed during the session was that there already are multiple technology-based programs run by multiple organizations. There are tons of digital resources already available on NIOS, on various government platforms. Various non-government organizations also have so many resources, but the challenge arises when the teacher is not equipped to kind of curate those skills and curate those resources and pick up the right ones that fit her classroom requirement. That's where teacher education kind of comes in a big way. So certainly the big task at hand is to kind of collaboration amongst all the agencies who are kind of developing new digital resources every day to kind of come together. Instead of creating new resources, we can actually curate the existing ones and make sure that they are kind of taken across learners, in all across the country. So these were some of the big takeaways from this session. This session was organized by WWF India, Sashakt Bharat, NIOS, and Foundation for Environmental Education. So, yeah. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take those questions.
Yes, Neha, I think you made a very forceful point and very strong group that you made certain, like children learn better and faster through technology. This is interesting. In fact, this recent report that has come out, locked out emergency report on education. And these are a group of economists and educators. They say that this digital, of course, you mentioned about digital divide, but the question of this, even the interest, only 19% of children in urban and 37%, 19% in rural and 37% in urban, they could like take part in some of those on a regular basis. And the online access is hardly 8% in rural and 24% in urban areas. So that is regarding the access. But even the interest-wise, like people are the students, and for teachers, it has always been a problem. You rightly mentioned about teacher education, but they consider this as a nightmare. For students, although they are fed up with, because they are at the gaze of their parents, parental pressure and all those kind of things. And content is so dry. I mean, as you rightly said, there are a lot of content, but really there is not only education crisis, but crisis of the right kind of content.
Absolutely.
So I think all these issues are there. And of course, collaboration. I think ICSC is one platform. I think in some way, some takeaway from this session, we can form a network or some kind of platform where we can really collaborate in all those aspects. That would be one of the greatest achievements. So
just one thing, that this group was very positive, and even though we discussed the challenges a lot, but this was a very positive and hopeful lot with no apprehensions, and everybody kind of believed that maybe there are tons of challenges at this point of time, but in perhaps in a couple of years, we will be certainly better positioned in terms of digital infrastructure. So yeah, so we will be able to achieve something, if not what we had set out to.
And another thing, 90% of the teachers in Delhi survey in urban and 97% rural areas, they want schools to open.
Yeah.
So means almost 100% people, they want schools to open, both parents and students. So again, the question is like experts are rooting for blended learning. But we have to rethink about all those those issues.
Certainly.
So any other question from Neha? Because I don't know where other groups are. So we have still plenty of time waiting for other groups to come. I think there are very animated discussion in other groups going on. So you people were quick enough to come to the conclusion.
Yeah, I think so. We decided not to do last bit in the interest of time, and we wanted to kind of take question and answers. So that was, the priority for us, because we knew 4:30 we are supposed to report over here.
And that is the crux of online learning. It has to be very, very time management is the I think key to a successful online program.
It's important to keep the time also for the whole conference.
Yes.
I think time management is also critical about how we address the climate crisis. We have been extending and delaying things in all parameters. I think that's something which is throughout for everyone to achieve.
That's true.
There must be some way of getting across to whoever is the leaders in each of the sessions that they must stick to the time, and because other things get delayed if you're over and you're encroaching on someone else's time. That's the point that has to be got across.
Archana, any news?
Yes, sir. We are coordinating with the moderators to allow them to come to plenary session. We are waiting from 3 sessions.
So what happened to those sessions? They are already, it's too late.
So they are in deep discussion right now.
They might be, but others are they're encroaching on someone else's time.
No, this is the last session, so means we do not have. Then we have networking and all those.
We have a concluding plenary, and then we have networking, So on both sides, the concluding plenary is supposed to be over by now. It's 1700.
Yeah. Yes.
Trying again.
Yeah, you just remind again, and let us discuss with Neha. Very interesting discussion we had on online. Neha, are you there? You are mute.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
What was the NIOS take on this whole scenario in the country, which is happening? In fact, are they still like struggling to, because all those private players, they have come up so strongly, so vigorously. So
I think Anshul is here, and I think so she's left. Yeah, Anshul, sorry, she was just here, and I think so she's left. Yeah, so NIOS, they have recently launched their virtual resource library, and certainly I could sense that they were struggling. So, and they are probably not the only ones. Everybody kind of shared the same views when it came to reaching the audience, the target beneficiaries for the kind of portal that they are developing. So I think so. They have been running these programs for past like 30 years. So they are pretty hopeful that something is definitely going to turn around with the new portal that they have come up with.
Great hope.
Yeah.
Yes. No, definitely. This is Ajay. I think we didn't hear you much because Nick made a very nice this summary of your session. Besides what he said, do you feel like green jobs, are they really? Because in the sense that we are losing jobs at a very fast pace because of COVID and the economic turndown, a lot of people are losing jobs. So in that scenario, is the green job is going to become a fad, or just say, for example, Sri Lanka wanted to become the whole country as a green, this organic in a haste, and now they are facing food crisis. They have declared food emergency because they didn't think of, means forcibly they wanted to create this, the whole greening of the agriculture sector. So any thought on this, Ajay?
Ajay is muted.
Ajay, are you there?
Okay.
I think he must have just gone somewhere to other groups. Archana,
Yes, sir.
please coordinate with
I
others.
am coordinating, sir, on it.
Tell them just time is up. They should.
Sir, we have Sanskriti Menon, ma'am.
Sanskriti, great. No, she's not.
She was here. She was here.
Sanskriti, are you there?
Hello, I am here. Yeah.
So, yes, good, great.
Good evening. Good evening.
So you exceeded your session's time by how many minutes? By 30 minutes?
No, not at all. Actually, I went into the plenary session, but I think I was not, I hadn't joined as panelist. So I was listening to your conversation till I realized that I needed to use the other link. Sorry for that.
Okay. So
we didn't exceed our time. It was just that I joined in the wrong way.
Archana, just remind everyone they might be facing the same problem.
Sir, we have reshared the links with everyone by their moderators. Yes.
Okay. So Sanskriti, nice to see you after a long time, that too virtually. So go ahead with your presentation, with your findings of your group. That was interesting. I was there for some time.
Yes. So thank you for listening in for briefly also. So we had quite a nice discussion, and I think it was quite a rich sort of experience that was shared on the one hand, we had Johan Duran joining us from FEE, and he is the acting director for the Blue Flag program. And that was, of course, the most appropriate experience to share in that session. And then we also had Sujit Tongre from CE, and he's the national operator for Blue Flag in India, but he also brings the rich experience of tourism, sustainable tourism and biodiversity education from Goa, his own sort of experience with the coastal regulatory zone, working with youth and communities in along the Goa coast. And we had Kerry McLean from WESA, the Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa. And that was also a very interesting initiative of youth who drawing inspiration from the Blue Flag, but also knowing that the International Blue Flag Award has a fairly stringent framework, and it is an aspirational framework that you actually improve sustainability, the ingredients of sustainability in the practices, and you look at how all the different stakeholders actually come up to speed in terms of environmental management criteria and practices that are put in place. But the journey towards Blue Flag, they felt that they could actually have young people trained and oriented and capacity builders, environmental stewards. And so they thought that, the work that they're doing really is looking at investing in the youth to instill this conservation and sustainability aspects linked to livelihood and environmental education, and then do their skilling and capacity building to that. So what we could sort of draw out as key takeaways was that, firstly, the sort of multi-dimensional criteria of a program like the Blue Flag Award, that serves as a good framework in which to drive both sustainability, and it provides the framework in which to do the sustainability education for facilities managers, the beach managers, the community. So the framework acts as a good, it is a framework, it's a good bucket through which to reach out and engage. And it's really a multi-stakeholder approach, which has got a sort of a very friendly governance system. And so the beach managers, the local community, of course, the local authorities, the forest department, the coastal department, the tourism department, they can all join in, and that serves as a basic platform in which the capacity building can happen, both for the facilities management as well as then put in an environmental education and a conservation action approach. And I think the way Blue Flag has played out in India is also very good, I think, a case of how the demonstration effect of we have 8 beaches in India that have been awarded the Blue Flag last year. And that has really become aspirational. So you can see how this is a good program, and different beaches extending within the same state, look, other states wanting to join in. We have also had interest from Lakshadweep to join in. So the demonstration effect of something that, is clearly, it's a great program. And you can see the difference between a beach that is a Blue Flag awarded beach. I think that serves as a good spur for education for sustainable development. So I think these were some of the key takeaways from the Sustainable Coastal Tourism session that I thought would be good to bring into this plenary.
Thank you, Sanskriti. I think this is a very interesting program, Blue Flag, and linking it to sustainability education and the sustainable tourism. Interesting. Particularly the 8 beaches that have got the Blue Flag in India. And you said, I think they can serve as the
beacons.
Beacons, as well as, I think, learning laboratories, I would say, for ESD. And of course, the demonstration is the greatest learning, the greatest education. Any questions from anyone?
I wanted to just add also, that in both in Blue Flag and in the Green Coast program also, the ability to kind of have the livelihoods dimension and environmental management with conservation, because there is great care taken to even restoration efforts. So there is, like, for example, in Div, the local government of the administration, they in fact removed quite a lot of debris and glass from the beach, and actually engaged the community around the hotels and volunteers to clean up the beach, and actually say that we can transform this place, and it did get transformed. It became an awarded beach, and from a place which was filled with 20 trucks of broken glass to something that has won an international award. I think that's a great journey of transformation, and it's really an inspirational place, because they have also then gone into sand dune restoration, removing the exotic plants that were growing, alien invasives that were growing, that it's like a subabul kind of a infested area that has been removed, and Ipomia and the creepers that are there on the sand dunes, those have been restored. So I think it served really a good purpose by bringing together, the local governance, the conservation, the environmental education, and conservation action, and the cleanups too, livelihoods as well.
Thank you, Sanskriti. I think very good inference from your group. Interesting.
Dr. Bhuj, was that session 3 for youth, is it?
Yeah, she was talking about the session 5, sustainable tourism.
Sustainable tourism.
Yes. It was Sanskriti Menon from CEE. We have school education session 1. So who is going to make presentation?
Good evening, everyone. I will be making the presentation. I will just share my screen. So recommendations which have emerged from our session is basically we had participation from various backgrounds. Dr. Chong Shimre from NCRT shared efforts related to the NCRT's experience of looking at new education policy and how ESD could be integrated. And then we had 3 panelists where we got teacher, a principal, and a managing trustee to share how they are looking at integrating ESD in schools. And then we could not have open discussion because we were running out of time, and there were a lot of interesting insights from each of our panelists and speakers. So what we have tried to look into this session is like from the framework of NEP 2020, that where target 4.7 looks into the citizenship education, and as part of ESD 2030, there are 5 policy practice areas which needs to be integrated when we are looking at sustainability education in schools. And then very importantly, which is the theme of the day, is like how do we bring education, how do we connect education for ecosystem restoration. So these were 3 areas where we have tried to look into the entire session and discuss around it. So we have actually listed down few questions which we wanted to discuss during the session. So these are the questions where we are looking at certain experiences we have from different partners who are already implementing sustainability education. So what are the different strategies, opportunities, and challenges they have faced? Then how do we look into NEP 2020 policy rollout when to strengthen the sustainability education? And then for the ESD 2030 and ecosystem restoration, what are the different strategies to integrate in training our teachers as well as creating a school sustainability plan? And the last one is the key, what we are discussing today is like for the young generation and the learners, how do we bring them opportunity where they can be become like a young ambassador, young environment ambassadors. So I'm just sharing few points which emerged from the discussion. So there are definitely challenges being faced by schools, teachers specifically, that there is a lot of curriculum load and time constraint in dealing when we are talking about bringing environmental education. Even Dr. Chong also said that we have infused environmental education, but it's usually seen as a subject which is linked to science or at most to geography. So it's very difficult to see that other dimensions, which is like culture and social. So how do we bring that? So that becomes a challenge. And also like assessment is also something which is very much connected with the school system. So other experiences which were very positive, which we heard from various speakers, like we need to integrate the current curriculum by engaging all the stakeholders. Then there is a lot of scope to work around action projects and participatory learning processes. If we promote that, we will be able to do a very effective sustainability education. Then linkage to assessment was very much addressed by all these speakers, that if we want, we have to enrich our subjects to bring in ESD concepts as well as connect it to the assessment. So there were a lot of examples which were shared with the current practicing schools and teachers. Then curricular and extracurricular approaches needs to be adopted together. So that was something which was came up from the experience sharing. And then a school community connect, which there were a lot of stories which we found were very interesting, where community outreach has led to a lot of learning in school children, and gave us a very good examples of how do we bring this as a very core component of school education. And going from here, then next question was, we were looking at how do we look at the NEP 2020 policy rollout. So some of the things which were suggested, that though it is an infusion approach, why with NEP 2020 we can look at treating it with the interdisciplinary approach, which is very much key to ESD. And then bringing all the dimensions, socio-economical and cultural, especially in context to India, it is very important that we connect our education system with our tradition and culture if we are looking at sustainability. Then India has, like NCERT has come up with learning outcomes, which needs to be actually integrated with sustainability competencies to give a due focus to sustainability education in the school system. Then NEP also talks about promoting life skills, especially vocational education. So that can be very much part of sustainability education, using organic farming and gardening, and say doing it yourself kind of experiences can be brought in. Then there is also need to allocate time and space when we are looking at NEP, that there are concepts like ecosystem, climate change, DRR, which are very important for our young generation to learn about. So that needs to be connected through this policy rollout. And teachers play a very critical role in transacting all these concepts. So their preparedness is also one of the key should be one of the key in this policy rollout. Then what are the different strategies we could look into bringing sustainability education in schools? So we found that there are a lot of schools who are working really well and applying sustainable campus approach in their school campuses. So they could be defined as a lead school, and who could guide other schools and help them to become sustainable campus schools. Then there could be documentation of success stories to showcase how ESD could be integrated in not only in the curriculum, in the entire school system. Then connecting schools with innovative EE and ESD programs. A lot of people shared that they are connected to, say, a program from Terry program from other institutions, like UNESCO is doing a lot of things, and UNEP is doing. And so those are the opportunities which bring a lot of dimensions in the school. So participation in such programs really help a school to become a sustainable school. Then all stakeholders of school campus needs to be engaged for planning the implementation. And then we also felt that engaging parent is very critical, because whenever you try and introduce any activity, parents have to be involved and they need to be convinced for this. Strategies to prepare teacher, it's very important we revamp the entire teacher preparation with NEP 2020, and thus orientation sessions on specific aspects related to sustainability education needs to be thought about and integrated. Then there could be a lot of training courses for teachers to prepare them specifically on ecosystem restoration and climate change related issues. And then a lot of resources are required for teachers to support them with required tools and techniques, and to introduce a lot of ideas related to action projects and activities. Now last point which we have discussed, and which is the main center of entire process, is like in school what we want citizens who are like they have they can think about the issues, and they can take some solution, they can find solution, and they can take action. So these are some certain things which have emerged from the discussion, that we must follow learning by doing approach in sustainability education, which needs to be like including experiential learning, learning from nature, empower them with knowledge and skills, and give them problem solving skills. Along with that, they should be able to also make decision. Their participation in decision making is very important. During COVID, a lot of student led initiatives were promoted where parents were also involved, which gave a lot of positive results. Like schools felt that it was very good opportunity to connect with parents in a very different way, where students were taking environmental action at their own home. Then participation in online, global and national initiatives was something which really helped schools to look into the various dimensions, learn from others. And then engaging students from very young age is very important to get them doing some positive action. So these are certain experiences which emerged, and also form a very good recommendation for taking these ideas ahead and implementing them. So thank you very much for your time and patience.
Thank you very much, Preeti. I think this was most comprehensive, and I think we all must commend the group in such a short time, such a comprehensive statement that you have come out with. And I would only request that, because tomorrow's this whole the concluding statement that we are going, Karthike Bhai will be presenting that. So you just come out with some very, very concrete ideas. I liked the sustainability plan for the schools and the community engagement, learning outcome integration, lead skills. All these are very good, and showcase the showcasing of the experiences by the schools. I think this group have done a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I think straight away, because we don't have much time, let us hear the group 3, I think, role of youth. And then finally, we will hear something from Dr. Anshul Kharbanda from NIOS.
Okay, so good evening, one and all. So I'll be speaking on the recommendations as well as the takeaways from the session 3, that was role of youth. Before that, I'd like to start with a statement or quote, we can say, from a young panelist which we had today from Bhutan itself. So he said that young people are taking part not only to save our future, but also to save the present. Youth, we all know that youth will play a very important role in the ecosystem restoration. As we all are aware, by 2050, the youth will, like today's youth, will be the key figures in the coming future. So this session of the role of youth was organized by 6 organizations, that is CEE, TERI Policy Center, the Climate Reality Project India, TERI, WWF, and Mobius Foundation. So today we had 6 youth panelists across South Asia speaking on various diverse topics which they are working. So we can say that this session was majorly on the own experiences of the youth, which they are doing on field and with their own hands. So the success stories of this youth were from urban, rural, as well as the tribal areas from the South Asian region of the world. So the topics were from they covered from eco restoration of in tribal and Maoist areas, as well as urban stream restoration, urban regeneration projects, restoration of grasslands, restoration of corridors, education, and empowering youth. So we can see that it was not just confined to a single ecosystem, but a diverse, but a range of ecosystems were covered where this youth panels which we had were working for conservation. So the main aim, or we can say the objective of this session, was that the youth and youth leaders involved in environmental and sustainable development work, members of young youth networks, NGOs, and other network facilities come together and present their work. So the focus on the role of youth in taking leadership roles for ecosystem restoration and opportunities for the youth to engage actively and lead these processes. So in that, there were 2 main components. One is like the youth the youth panel of we had 6 youth, as I said, they presented their work, as well as the experts from various organizations provide them also the participants with different platforms where youth can engage in restoration activities as well as climate change mitigation. So the major takeaways from the session, which we all would like to surely look, because this was, as in the beginning Dr. Rambu said, this was the session which got a good participation from the youth, and they were very interested to listen to the youth and what they are doing. So the first thing, the thing is like sensitization of youth on climate change and biodiversity conservation is a crucial part, and the organizations which are working on it should take this seriously and engage more and more youths in it. So the youth have an urge to bring upon change, but they need to be guided to take apt actions which are in line. With that, involvement of local communities is very necessary for restoration of the local ecosystem in which they are working, as well as considering the indigenousness of that local ecosystem while restoring them. So the youth needs to be in power for taking actions for ecosystem restoration and climate change mitigation. So with that, connect to livelihoods, experimental learning opportunities, research and action. With that, organizations can provide the youth who are very enthusiastic and who are willing to work the platforms to present their work or help them to get connected with some work. Also, they should be provided with opportunities for providing skills such as design thinking skills with digital technologies and other ways in which it is possible. With that, awareness and education are important for informed decision making, and the youth needs to be involved in decision making. This is a very important thing which came up from this session. Like the youth now needs to come forward and take be a part of the decision making. With that, advocacy is very important, and the youth should build up their voice and they should start speaking on what are the issues, and they also they should take firm stance on what is happening. But one necessary care that needs to be taken, and which came out of the session, is like youth should not become activists without knowledge. They should have relevant and apt knowledge on what they are speaking, rather than becoming just activists and going ahead. They should have a very systematic knowledge on what they are speaking about ecosystem restoration or as well as climate change. With that, the youth, we all know, have the power to influence the world. So youth needs to understand their power and come ahead and lead the part for our future, present as well as the future generation. As we all know that this is the decade of ecosystem restoration. So this is a great opportunities for the youth to come ahead and lead all of us towards the ecosystem restoration as well as conservation efforts. With that knowledge, the outcome we can say of this was the knowledge about variety of ideas in which ways youth are engaging and can further engage in ecosystem restoration came upon. And today we were able to give opportunity to 6 such young people who are working very efficiently in the field in all across the state. So such more opportunities, if can be provided to youth panelists who are working all across the world, that will be really helpful for the coming future, we can say. With that, at the end, I would like to say, like, as I started with a quote from the youth panelist, I'll end with a quote from one of the expert panels from WWF, which is, do whatever you do with it a lot of wisdom. So that was said by Ms. Radhika Suri from WWF. So as it was a holistic, we can say it was a holistic, the session was holistic, as it comprised of the youth experience of the youth in the field they are working, as well as the experience of the experts. Like we were having experience, we can say, of a decade or century, like, or if we comprise all of the experts which we had today, and if we combine their experience, then it would be surely more than a century. And that would be my end words. Thank you all.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you very much. I think you took the maximum time, your group. How much time you exceeded?
I think not much.
1 hour 40 minutes.
Okay.
Is it?
Yes, I think so.
No, it was, I think we just exceeded by 15 minutes.
Yes.
No.
Well,
Can't believe. Anyway, Madhvi is also there. So any questions for this youth group? Very, I think this was the most active group, very dynamic. and very lively discussions. I was for, I think, very briefly inside the group.
I just wanted to add one more thing. I think it was something that struck me is the opportunity for networks, you know, the importance of networks and young people. It comes from them, that the whole, you know, impact that they can have as networks on and in the influence that they can, you know, have. So I think that is another takeaway from what we, you know, got today during this session. It was really, really very, very empowering and inspiring for us to listen to all these people.
That's true. Experience versus the enthusiasm and merging together make us just give this idea for the concluding session. A recommendation for a network, nicely worded, something for tomorrow.
We will do that. We will just put this together and send it across.
Advi,
Ji, sir. Hello, sir.
I would like you to look at XR movement, which is going on in the UK.
I made note of that when you were talking about it.
Yeah, it's very, very important.
Absolutely.
Because whatever we've done for the, let's say, last 10 years, people have been talking about carbon. Al Gore has been talking for 10 years about this, but no action is being taken. And we're getting worse and worse and not reaching our goals. So this is a very important thing, and how to go about it and what do you expect to achieve. It can only be done through political pressure, and that is what is required of the youth in the beginning. But I think one very important point said in your entire presentation by Atharva was that they must go with knowledge. Without knowledge of that, then there is no point going like a Jholawala and protesting. Knowledge is
true. Absolutely true.
This
I think informed decision making and knowledge is really, really.
Even if, you know, out of 100, 5 people have good knowledge, that should provide the leadership for the rest.
That's true.
So I think this is a very important thing for youth. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I think it's very, very important for youth, because activism is okay, but that has to be. That is why this group was full with knowledgeable people, and of course activists. Finally, we have Ms. Ansul Kharbanda from NIUS. In fact, she just messaged that she wants to say some very important, I think, add to her group. So Anshul, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir, I'm here. So thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity, because we were the first ones to come out from there. So maybe we didn't get enough time there. So I thought I can share some of the things here too. So, sir, because you also wanted to know, like, NIOS as a national level government organization, what are the initiatives that NIOS has been doing? So we recently launched a virtual open school, launched on 5th of August by the Education Minister. And the school, the virtual platform, it provides opportunities to the specially abled students also. They can also equally participate, and it involves different technologies like artificial intelligence, based on remotely proctored arrangements. And then there will be several new topics also, like cybersecurity and many other things, besides providing support through digital libraries, digital learning, digital classrooms, radio and television. So because you know that NIOS has a diverse clientele spread throughout the country, and with approx 500,000 students enrolling every year. So we have a diverse group of learners, and engaging all learners through the virtual platform is not possible because some may not have access to devices and internet. So we use multiple delivery approach using other platforms as well. We have the community radio programs, we have the live programs on television coming up, we have the Mukt Vidyavani, that is the web audio streaming, and many other initiatives other than what our course material is. So, and then like this is like a new model, the virtual school that I talked about, because it will also provide learners the experience of virtual labs other than the virtual classrooms. Because during the pandemic also we have seen that learners, they have attended classes online, but they were not able to do the practicals and the examinations. So this virtual platform will also provide an opportunity for them to appear for exams online and also to conduct practicals online using stimulation and other innovative techniques. So this was one thing I wanted to tell. Secondly, I also wanted to add that NIOS is today receiving the King Shijong UNESCO Literacy Prize for its digital initiatives in the field of sign language for the disabled. So that is also, thank you so much. And that is also a step towards sustainable education and inclusive education. And the most important thing, the last one and the most important, because in the group also we were discussing about collaboration. You also talked about collaboration. Then Neha talked about teacher training, and Pramodji also, he talked about bringing an attitudinal change. So as you already know, but I would also tell to the larger group also that NIOS has developed a gender green teacher program, which is a program for the teachers, and it would orient them to issues relating to gender and environment, so that when they are taking classes, imparting lectures, it is interwoven into their teachings and it goes to the students and creates a ripple effect. So the modules comprise of lessons in gender, environment, and sustainable education also. So it was a collaborative effort with UNESCO, having key persons from there, and then also the Center for Environment Education and also Commonwealth of Learning. So this was all what I wanted to add, besides what we have discussed in the group, that this is also that we have been doing. Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity and for this wonderful conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshul. Thank you very much. In fact, I was part of your gender green.
Sure. Madhuri ma'am is also there. She's also there. And
yeah, Madhuri was also there. So, and congratulations from all of us for the UNESCO award. It's really very prestigious. Yeah, NIOS is, I think, world's largest open schooling platform. But my question was, of course, it's we are getting late, but still I can just put this question. Because there is plethora of those private, the commercial entrants have come into. So where is, in that scenario, where does NIOS stands? Because they are much more popular, they have much more this learner base. So do you, is there any study or do you compare with them, or what is, of course you have advantages, much bigger advantages than that, being an open platform, open access platform.
Sir, besides being an open platform, NIOS is also a national level board in India. So if we talk of NIOS, we that's one of the two national level boards. We have CBSE, we often talk about Icsc also, but NIOS is a national board. So it has its importance as a national board, which is recognized in all parts of country also, and in abroad also. So that, I think, is a plus point that we have over other private institutions, private players that are there. And the degree, the certificates that we give is of course of national importance. They are recognized everywhere. So that makes a difference in like why students should be opting for NIOS. So this is why we have a large database of students also.
Well said. Finally, there is a question from Neeraj Sapkota. It's on, I think you can answer. How do we address privacy concerns?
Regarding privacy concerns in this virtual platform, the virtual open school that has been launched, so there will be certain features will be embedded, like the recognition, the artificial intelligence, and other features that would identify. So a teacher who is there addressing to the students, and there would be a large group when we talk of open schooling, a large group of learner is there on the platform. So the teacher has the authority or the hold there to block the learner if he or she is not behaving appropriately. But then before that, she can always give them chances to improve upon before she actually goes for that. But yes, there are many privacy concerns that have been taken into account, like this one I mentioned, and she can also privately reach out to those learners and give them once or twice they can warn them for those things.
Thank you so much.
Dr.
I think, yeah.
I have
Thank you, sir.
thing.
Yeah, please.
You're talking about session 2, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is, I would like you to look at website of Sustainability Mafia. Can you note that
Sure,
down and have a look at that website?
Sure, sir.
They're doing a virtual school also for sustainability on that from the United States. So have a look at Sustainability Mafia. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And if you can't get through, then contact me again, and I'll give you the link.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir, I think I found it. So I Googled it and found it. It's there. I'll explore.
That was fast.
Yes, sir.
Very fast. Yeah, I think, are there any other questions or comments? So I think everybody is quite, of course, even charged up. I won't say tired, because there might be a lot of queries are coming up online. But for now, we are ending this session. Very interesting. All those 5 groups, in fact, I think very interesting. Some new insights have come, and hopefully our team is preparing a recap. Tomorrow morning, we will just present it. The young reporters for environment. Thank you, Madhavi and the FE team for training them, choosing them, and assigning them. They are doing, I think, great job here. So we will have.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Madhavi has been, means the youth session. She is from this very beginning. She has been along with Athav and all the group. So Preeti's group was also very, very active. Sanskriti brought a new, of course, means she was very late to come. Actually, at one time we thought that this session is not going to happen, but yes, because all session briefs have come and they were uploaded on the website. Only this group was, but finally they come. I think it was one of the best sessions, because I attended. Out of 5 sessions, I thought I will let me divide in around 10 minutes each, but I was the last. I was there for the maximum time. So I extend on behalf of all the organizers, means Mobius Foundation partners. Thank you, everyone, group leaders, panelists, participants. But conference is not yet over. We have tomorrow, but today itself, a lot of opportunities for you to interact. There is networking lounge, various chat rooms. If you want to chat with someone in detail, that is available. Exhibitions, posters, papers, contributed papers, and resource center. So you take advantage of all that. And for now, I think let us close this session with a huge applause to each and everyone. Thank you so much.